Hey boys, I just wanted to tell you the story of my buck that I shot on November 6th. It's the eve of the opener, and I thought this would be a great video to maybe get pumped up a little bit. And so this story really starts on Saturday, the 5th. I went bow hunting that afternoon, took my ATV to a spot where I could easily walk into my blind. It's a ground blind. And I didn't see a thing Saturday night, but the wind just was howling. I don't know if you remember the 5th of November, but the wind was howling. So after it got dark, I headed back, got on the ATV, headed back, and the wind had blown so hard and it blew a tree across the trail, heading back to Kyle's cabin. It was probably 24 to 30 inch. It was big, and there's a couple of them actually that fell across. And so I ended up grabbing my gear and walking back the rest of the way to the trailer. Supper was ready, so we headed over to Dirk and Trisha's. I think Trisha had heated up Becca Fry's wet burritos. I think they might be venison wet burritos, but they were good regardless. And we celebrated a little bit and then headed back to the trailer. Campfire and a couple of beers later, and we ended up going to bed. During the night, generator shuts off. Kyle gets up to refuel it. I stepped out to take a leak and ended up crawling back into our warm beds, only to wake up and I realized it's daylight already. I mean, it was 7:15. It was 8:15 on my watch, but it was 7:15. And so I quickly got out of that trailer, used the outhouse, got my gear together, a bottle of water, and a granola bar. And I walked back to that ATV that I had left behind there. So the struggle begins here. That ATV, I can't figure out how to get it in reverse. And so here I am rocking that thing in neutral, trying to get it aiming the other way so I could take it back, go back to my hunting spot, which I did, get it figured out. And I could drive back to my hunting spot and walk in really quietly because it was full daylight now. And I get to my blind, sit down, and I'm facing the north, and so I open that window in front of me halfway down. And in the side windows, I just did the front corners so that I could see from side to side, but just kind of had a panoramic view in front of me. As soon as I sat down, it wasn't a minute or two, and I see a whitetail going in the distance off to the east. And I thought, wow, okay, that's a good start to the morning. And it wasn't about a half an hour, and here walks this 9-point buck. And I look and I go, oh my goodness, he's coming straight from the north right at me. And he stops 15 yards away, puts his head down, picks it back up, looks at me, wiggles his tail a little bit like that, and puts his head back down and kind of angles in front of a tree so that I could get my bow up. And so I was able to get my bow up at that point. And then he didn't sense the movement, I don't think, but he picked his head up, looked at me again, and thought, there's something there. So he starts quartering away from me. And he just quartered away from me, and he kept walking very slowly. He wasn't panicked. And walked through some slashings. And as soon as he got into an opening where the front half of his body was fully exposed, I grunted at him. Well, I gave him a little and he turned and he looked at me just that instant. And at that point, I just let my arrow fly. Ping. It hit him, and he turned and he was hurt. I knew he was hurt. You could just tell by the way he turned and ran. And heart's just a pounding and I'm breathing heavy. So it took probably 5 minutes to compose myself, and I got up and got out of my stand. And I had left my crossbow rope in my pocket of my jacket in Dirk's and Trisha's cabin. And so I didn't have that. I couldn't recock my bow. I tried with my bare hands and about took a finger off. You know how that goes. And I thought, that's not too smart. And so I thought, okay, well, that's fine. I just grab my backpack and I'm going to go find my deer. And so I started walking to the north where he ran, and I didn't find any blood where I hit him. I didn't see my arrow anywhere. And so I kept walking to the north, and all of a sudden I see this spray of blood. And there was a lot of blood. And so I was able just to follow that trail. And sure enough, in the distance, I see his white breast, and I walk right up to him, a nice 9-point. So at that point, I took a selfie and I said, "Boy, I think I need a little help here." Dirk was in town having a grandson. Josh wasn't hunting that weekend. Kyle got up as well when I got up and left. But he grabbed a chainsaw and cut that tree that was covering the road, cut that tree up, and then went back to bed. I think that actually was quite a big effort because it was a big tree. At any rate, he ended up going back to bed. And so I thought, well, what am I going to do here? So Randy then replied and said, "I'm on my way." I thought, oh, cool. All right, that'll work. So I walked back to the ATV, or went down and thought I'd go up to the trailer and get a couple other supplies that we may need. And by that time, Randy showed up. Kyle was up, and we talked, conversed, took the ATV back there, and we're able to actually drive right up to the deer. And we never did find that arrow, by the way. Couldn't find it in the deer. Couldn't find it on the ground. And there was an entry hole, but we couldn't figure out where the exit hole was. It's the weirdest thing ever. We still don't have a good explanation for that. Randy ended up getting it. Kyle and Randy threw it on the ATV. Kyle took the ATV through the woods back and hung it up on his buck pole, the very first. On Backeisen deer on Kyle Backeisen property. What a great time that was. It was great success. It was a lot of fun. Dirk came up that evening after having a granddaughter born to him, my great-granddaughter Blakely, and Dirk and I and Randy and Kyle celebrated the buck snort, and we had a great time. So I'm hoping your opening day tomorrow is successful and that you guys have a great time. Weather here in Florida is great. Mom, Phyllis and I are content, happy, and having a good time together. So we'll catch you at a future buck camp. See you later, boys. Bye.